message, is Washington, D.C. is the best, the biggest, and the brightest, and it should control your lives. Republicans are the ones that are saying, let's make Washington smaller. Let's let people decide their own future and their own lives, and that's more popular outside of D.C.
We were having this conversation yesterday. I was talking with Will and some other members of our team here, and it just feels like that weight that a lot of these elected officials or even some of the appointed positions, it feels like a lot of that weight has changed. And I mean that in a good way, in the sense of no longer are everyone who is in Washington, D.C. held up as heroes or icons or as, above us, superheroes, if you will. Now we're actually able to see a bit behind the curtain. And I think it's good for the American people to do that. Maybe it also encourages more people to get involved because you go, oh, if they could do it, then certainly I could try.
I think there's no question that what's happening in Washington, D.C., what happened at the State of the Union, is proving to the American people that Washington, D.C. is out of touch and not what they want. Remember, people want a budget that is small. People want to make sure that politicians aren't supporting waste, fraud, and abuse. It feels like the Democrats are defending waste, fraud, and abuse right now. They're talking about trans mice and whether or not that's a good program. The rest of America just thinks that's a waste, and they can't believe someone's defending it.
Thanks so much, obviously, for joining us. Again, we always appreciate your analysis and thoughts, and I wanted to take another moment as we head into a break to encourage you to support the work of the ACLJ, because in the next segment, you're going to hear about our new campaign that we're running in Massachusetts. And hey, with Rick, where they're all seeing similar efforts happen in California, we're going to break that down as well. We're running an ad campaign right now in the state of Massachusetts that you help fund. We only have the budget to run it for a few months, and we are fighting against their campaign, the state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts state, their aggressive multi-million-dollar smear campaign against pregnancy resource centers. We're also seeing how AI is playing into that. We'll get into that as well, and how AI is telling you to avoid these, what they call anti-abortion centers, pro-life pregnancy centers, crisis pregnancy centers, whatever you want to call it. And that's why we launched our Choice Begins Here campaign, because it's going to spread hope and provide resources for women in need. It's going to save lives, and we think it's already done that. We can see the traffic going to that website from the state of Massachusetts, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have. That's amazing. That's not a website you go to make a donation. That's a website you go to get information if you are in need. I'm glad we were able to provide that. And hopefully we'll continue to grow that across the country. But right now, we need your financial support, and all donations are doubled. So go to aclj.org. Again, aclj.org, and have your gifts doubled during our Life and Liberty Drive. Again, we are battling this with a first-in-the-nation approach. We are taking it very different than we've ever done before, and we can't do it without you. So right now, help join us in the fight. At aclj.org. We'll be right back.
The challenges facing Americans are substantial. At a time when our values, our freedoms, and our constitutional rights are under attack, it's more important than ever to stand with the American Center for Law and Justice. For decades now, the ACLJ has been on the front lines, protecting your freedoms, defending your rights in courts, in Congress, and in the public arena. And we have an exceptional track record of success. But here's the bottom line. We could not do our work without your support. We remain committed to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms. That remains our top priority, especially now during these challenging times. The American Center for Law and Justice is on your side. If you're already a member, thank you. And if you're not, well, this is the perfect time to stand with us at aclj.org, where you can learn more about our life-changing work. Become a member today. aclj.org.
After nearly 50 years, Roe v. Wade, the tragic ruling that manufactured a so-called right to abortion, has been overturned by the United States Supreme Court. This is the moment the ACLJ has been fighting for. It's the biggest victory we've been.
Police reported ahead.
3-decade-long fight against the soulless abortion industry. And believe me, abortionists like Planned Parenthood are devastated. This victory would not have been possible without the steadfast prayer and support of ACLJ members like you. On behalf of the entire ACLJ, I thank you for standing with us against the abortion industry and helping us save defenseless babies. I thank you for making bare new abortion laws across our nation. Welcome back to Secular. We are going to continue our discussion also on the current moment that happened right now, as you saw Al Green be censured and the protest against it that happened. We have a phone call on that. I want to take that real quick, and then we're going to move on and talk a little bit about our pro-life campaign. If you want to call in and talk about any of these topics, 1-800-684-3110. We're also going to talk about the ultimatum President Trump laid out to Hamas. Could not have been stronger. Pretty amazing moment if you have been a supporter of the state of Israel. But Joel, you're on the air.
Hey, how y'all doing? I appreciate what you're all doing too, man. Thank you for your hard work. I think I heard a comment earlier that you're not sure if it was a good look to go after Al Green or reprimand him or whatever that they do as far as the protocol. I think it is. I think it's definitely something that you should pay some sort of penalty for, whatever we say the realm of their rules. Because only so often it seems like people would do things and nothing would happen to them and get away with it, which bolds them to even do more. And I challenge people to tell me one thing positive that Democrats have accomplished. Just give me one, and then we'll have a conversation. And that's kind of what the conversation's about.
Yeah, Joel,
anyway,
absolutely. I don't disagree with you. I was posing the question. To me, I look at everything from the media point of view, and I look at everything from, if you want to say, a marketing point of view. And is that the story that you wanted out there today? Is that the number one story? Is it because the Democrats, as Will said, though they have come off as sort of the, I don't want to say this, the nerds in the room, they've come off a little bit more lame than they used to, and we have the biggest names in podcasting, it seems like, on our side here, and you have people who are maybe the biggest influencers, like a Joe Rogan, or you have the Paul brothers, or whoever it may be, that actually are influencing the younger generation for the first time in a long time. What I more say is, do you really want... I think that the censoring is standard practice. It should happen. But the show that went on because of it is the detriment, because you're giving another clip. You're creating another clip for them to use and honestly paint it as a racial moment. And when you start saying we shall overcome, and you start having these moments, it starts to create the narrative that it's just another easy thing for them to point to. And that's my concern with it. It had nothing to do with the actual procedure. I think the procedure should happen. It's more thinking 5 steps ahead.
Well, and I think, and this is where you and I agree with your analysis, but I agree with Joel as well that I think it was the right thing to do. 10 Democrats also believed it was the right thing to do because they voted with the Republicans on the censure. I think that there are people within that party that realize it wasn't a good look. That is the first time a member of Congress has been removed from a joint session like that, and that it doesn't need to become the norm. And so you do need to show the repercussions that when you take that. Now, I also think there should be a censure vote for every one of those that tried to disrupt the proceeding, that got up there and stood around him and sang loudly so that they couldn't move on with the people's business. But, you're also seeing that there were people like David Axelrod, who was saying what Al Green did was deplorable or despicable, that he should not have done that. And then you see John Fetterman, he's tweeting out a sad cavalcade of self-owns and unhinged petulance. It only makes Trump look more presidential and restrained. We're becoming the metaphorical car alarm that nobody pays attention to, and it may not be the winning message. That was responding to the behavior of the entire House Democratic caucus, that the way they behaved during the speech. And so while I understand your concerns about giving them a media moment again, I also think there's a large portion of America, when we talked about 76% in that CBS poll that approved of President Trump during that message, it's also going to be a reminder of how poorly the Democrats came across, and then they doubled down on that bad behavior 2 days later. So I think there's also that angle you could look at, that they're not doing themselves any favors trying to make it be like they are the righteous warriors standing up, because protesting during a speech like that and not honoring the decorum, that's them rejecting the democratic norms that our country is founded upon.
Yeah. maybe we need a little bit of that. Maybe we need a little bit of shaking it up. Maybe we need to actually make this a bit more of a spectacle. I sat there, and when that moment happened, it made me nervous, especially coming off of 2 assassinations attempts of President Trump. When there starts being chaos erupting, that got to me, and I felt uncomfortable watching it. But I'm also okay with our elected officials actually going in there, representing their people, and doing what needs to get done. And sometimes that's getting everyone a little worked up. Sometimes that's rabble-rousing a little bit. Sometimes we need take a little cue from our friends of the United Kingdom, where things get a little crazier in the Parliament. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I saw a lot of you cheering that on when there was the whole Speaker of the House situation, when that all went down a few years ago with McCarthy. And, of course, there was Matt Gaetz and all of them causing a stink, and I'm like, I don't think this is very nice. And a lot of people said to me, we don't want nice anymore. So you know what? Pick your poison here. Which one are we going to do? Are we going to get into the point where this is old school America? Where you're like, when I mean old school, I mean like hundreds of years ago now, where, we're
1700s.
We're going to write some real mean papers that we're going to release, and we'll send, someone will have a different pin name, but we'll all know it was you, Hamilton. We'll know it was you, Benjamin Franklin. Oh man, when we need to get back to that? Give me a call. I want to know. 1-800-684-3110. We were supposed to talk about our Choice Begins Here campaign. I'm going to bump that to the next segment. That feels a little inappropriate to move from here to there. But I do want to hear from you. There are thousands of you watching right now. And when I see thousands, that means there's a lot of people that have never seen me before. Hello. Welcome to Seculo. Will Haynes is joining me. He's our executive producer. We had Rick Grinnell on earlier. We're going to have one of our senior attorneys. That's right. We also have an entire legal side to this, not just a show. We actually take care of business. We actually get stuff done. So if you're new here, I'm going to ask you to hit that subscribe button. We have 467,000 plus on YouTube alone. Some of you are watching on Rumble. Some of you are watching on the Salem News Channel. We do this show each and every day. From noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, you work your way back from where you are. And, of course, you can watch it later on archived on the ACLJ app, on aclj.org, on YouTube, on Rumble, on any of the platforms you get podcasts. You can find us there. But I'm encouraging you right now, 3 lines just filled up. We have 3 lines still open. Some people think this is a rerun. This is not a rerun today. They think it may be. This is where it gets confusing, because we're talking about the censure of Al Green, which is based on what happened a few days ago at that not State of the Union address. Okay? Even Rick said it was the State of the Union.
I think we should just get away with it not being the State of the Union. Let's just, anytime you join session of Congress and the President speaks, just call it the State of the Union.
Yeah.
It's so much less complicated.
Yeah, S-O-T-U. So do. Man, this is going to be a fun second half hour coming up. I want you to join us, but I also want you to support the work of the ACLJ while you're at it. If you like this show, if you like what we do here, maybe you've been around for a while, you know the incredible work that our team does, our legal team, our media team. Or maybe you just like this show. That's okay, too. Maybe you just like us showing up in your Instagram feed. That's great. But you know what? We're not funded by major sponsors here. We're not funded by a bunch of, fat cat billionaires who make humongous donations. If you are one of those fat cat billionaires, please send me an email. We'd be happy to talk about it. But we are funded by individual donations at ACLJ Champions. Those are people that give $25, $45, $75. And a lot of you give on a monthly basis, and I encourage you to do that right now. Scan the QR code on your screen, donate during our Life and Liberty Drive. If you become an ACLJ champion, that's a monthly recurring donor, your first donation is doubled. And not you don't get charged double. Someone out there, another ACLJ supporter or champion, has pledged to match that donation. So that's how that works. Again, that's at aclj.org. We have a second half hour of the broadcast coming up. We're going to talk about Israel. We're going to talk about life and continue this discussion as well. We'll be right back.
And then when you die, what happens then? Well, if you have a will, the bank is going to request letters testamentary. Or if you don't, the bank is going to want proof that the person has been approved by the court to have the authority to act on behalf of that account to transfer it either according to the will or under the laws of intestacy.
Listen to Estate Planning Essentials with elder law attorney Michael Cohen. Mondays and Tuesdays at 1 p.m. and Saturdays at 10 a.m. on 770 KAAM.
Keeping you informed and engaged. Now more than ever. This is Seculo. And now your host, Logan Seculo.
This is Logan Seculo. Welcome to the second half hour of Seculo for today. Will Haynes joining me in studio. Stacey Heil will be joining us later on. Rick Burnell already was on, so you can go back and watch that later on. He did a great analysis of what's going on in Washington, D.C. I did want to take a minute here as we kick off this show to tell you about our campaign. Choice Begins Here is our new pro-life campaign inspired by my trip to Massachusetts, where I saw these ads running specifically against pro-life pregnancy resource centers, or as they call them, anti-abortion centers. They're running these ad campaigns saying, you can't trust, don't go in there, avoid them, they'll mislead you. And of course, when I looked at it closely, I realized it was coming from taxpayer money. It was coming from a mass.gov website. It was shocking and disturbing, and I immediately got our team into action. We filed lawsuits, we're in court over it, but I said that's not enough. We got to take this to the streets just like they did. So we have an ad campaign that has rolled out over the last week, and we have seen hundreds and hundreds of people go. And again, this isn't to go after the state of Massachusetts. This is to also target the mothers in need, the future mothers in need, with no shame, as it says in the ads, no shame or no pressure. And we're encouraging people to go to these pro-life pregnancy resource centers instead of going to abortion clinics, because they give you the real choice. And they provide a lot of options, including food, including diapers, clothes. We had a caller yesterday who said they paid for their child's first birthday. A lot of these are volunteer run by the sweetest people you've ever met. And of course, this smear campaign by the state has really taken its toll on them. They've seen a 30% decline in people coming in through their doors and a 30% rise in abortions throughout the state. So I want to play you our brand new ad. I've been rolling out an ad each and every day. So let's see today's Choice Begins Here ad. Again, these are running throughout the state right now.
My baby boy, I want you to know that I love you. Because I love you, I made the hardest choice I could ever imagine. You'll always be in my heart, I promise. I just want you to have every opportunity in the world. I'll always wonder where you are, what you're doing. I know you'll be really smart, I can tell. I'm already so proud of you. And no matter what, you'll be carrying a piece of my heart. Hug your mom and dad for me, every day. Love you forever, Mama. I owe my birth mom everything. And because of her, I have a life. I love you, Mom.
To find a pregnancy resource center near you, go to choicebeginshere.org.
Ad campaign, and of course that is not running to you as the consumer. That is running to people who are in need, people who are pregnant, are trying to make that important decision. But we can't fund that ad campaign. It's not like it's a marketing campaign that we have a return. Like, we're putting out a product, and therefore people go get to the product, and we make some sort of financial revenue from that. That's not how this one works. This is purely just a counter campaign to counter what the state is doing. And that is all funded by you, the ACLJ supporter. So I'm going to encourage you right now, be a part of this Choice Begins Here campaign. Make a donation during this Life and Liberty Drive. We get to do these Life and Liberty Drives a couple times a year, and we're really able to show whether this is an issue you still care about. We know the overturning of Roe, the win in the Dobbs case, made a lot of people just go, we won. Finally, it's over. But we know that's not the case. It was sent back to the states, and some of your more liberal states, or those who are even just controlled by liberals or far leftists, we know what they're doing. And we also found out that this is happening in the state of California. And Will, maybe you can go over briefly before we get to break what that is.
That's right, and we've been talking about how we expected to see this other places. Our launch point was Massachusetts, but the Department of Justice of California has put out a consumer alert about pregnancy centers do not provide comprehensive reproductive health care. They often advertise full range, but they do not provide abortion, and it goes on and on. That's not from the Health Department of California. It's from the Attorney General of the state of California. We also have found out that Google, through AI, if you ask, just Google crisis pregnancy centers, it is all biased, say that they peddle in misinformation and false advertising. So we have a big fight ahead, folks. It's not just Massachusetts. It begins there, but we're going to keep going. Donate today, aclj.org/life and liberty.
Champions aren't born. Champions are ordinary people just like you who choose to do the extraordinary, to go the extra mile, to do what is right no matter the cost. It can be a difficult choice, but one any of us can make, including you. You can make a difference. You can be a champion. The legal battles we fight and the victories we've won are only possible because of the support of ACLJ members like you. But many of our cases take not only weeks, but months and sometimes years. By setting up a monthly donation, ACLJ champions ensure we have the resources we need to take on these critical legal battles and win. By becoming a monthly donor, you become a champion of life, a champion of liberty, and a champion of freedom. Become an ACLJ champion today. Go to aclj.org/champion.
Hey everyone, this is Jordan Seculo. You've spoken and we've heard you loud and clear. That's why this month we're doing something big. We're proud to announce our brand new ACLJ Life and Liberty Drive. Our legal teams will be focusing on the issues that you, our ACLJ members, have told us matter the most to you. Life and religious liberty. We're redoubling our efforts to beat back the radical left's attack on your constitutional religious freedoms and to defend the sanctity of human life. Life and liberty are the cornerstones of our great nation, but they're not guaranteed. When the values we hold dear are under attack, it's up to all of us to stand or risk losing them forever. This is not just a call to fund our legal battles. This is your moment to get in the fight. Just as before, every tax-deductible gift will be doubled, dollar for dollar, through the ACLJ Life and Liberty Drive, giving you twice the impact to defend your freedoms and help us fight to literally save lives. Join the ACLJ in the fight to keep America free. Welcome back to Secular. We are going to take your calls coming up in the next segment, so 1-800-684-3110. We may take them in this segment, too. You never know. Cece Hiles joining us, senior attorney here at the ACLJ. We do have an update in the fight for Israel. Of course, this is in Gaza, and Hamas has been going on now for the millennia, but maybe it's also been going on specifically for the last couple of years after the October 7th attack. President Trump has made a pretty declarative statement. This came out last night. I'm just going to read it to you because it's pretty hardcore. But you know what? It's the verbiage that we all have been thinking and we've all been hopeful for. And finally, you have a president willing to say it. Now, again, I'm going to hope this means the end of the war. But we will see. This is the statement. Again, something that only President Trump could post on social media. It says, Shalom, Hamas, which means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered. Or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I'm sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now or there will be hell to pay later. And that is from Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Now again, a pretty intense statement, but clearly it is time for this kind of rhetoric.
That's right. And that is what people voted for when they voted for President Trump, a strong leader who will make statements like this and mean business. And it has gone on for far too long. And when we see more and more come out about how aid is misused in Gaza or the way that they have treated the hostages, the mind games they've played with the world when they release prisoners' bodies instead of living hostages, and then to add insult to injury, they don't return the mother of the children and then quickly do it 24 hours later. It's all psychological warfare that they're perpetuating on the Jewish people and the people of Israel. And Cece, I think the American people have had enough. I know the Israeli people have had enough, but seeing statements like this from President Trump is very refreshing to see when you're talking about a terrorist organization.
Yeah, it's very encouraging to me because, you know, working and defending Israel for as long as we have, you're very aware of Hamas and the PA and the PLO and all of their tactics. And the fact that, you know, you're renegotiating a second phase yet again, it's because they do negotiations, and Israel does them in good faith, and Hamas always reneges on what they agree to. So we see that here again, and it's believed that there are 24 hostages that are still alive that Hamas has, and I would reiterate that we actually represent 2 of those hostages, Ziv and Gali Berman. They're twins, and back in February, for the very first time, the family did get notification from some of the hostages that were released that they were alive. They were not being held together, but they were, as you can imagine, in mortal danger. So, I would just request that prayers just keep coming in for the hostages, that they do remain alive, that we can have, nobody else dies in captivity while they're being held by Hamas. And we're still going to be fighting for them and praying for them. And it's very refreshing, like you said, that our President Trump, would make such a bold statement, because that's what needs to be done. Hamas needs to be told, you're not going to get by with this anymore.
And clearly he met again with some of the hostages that were
Yes.
flown into Washington, D.C. He was able to actually see it firsthand. And I think for a lot of people, not unlike just visiting Israel in general, that it changes the way you see the whole war, changes the way you see biblical history, changes your life. And I feel like that's probably a moment that happened. And like President Trump seems to do, he's not going to let those emotions just, get swept under the rug. You actually have a moment where he's like, you know what, enough is enough.
Right.
Now, again, we have to see what that really means, because Hamas is already saying, we'll kind of brush it off. We'll see what happens.
Well, and this was supposed to be a time, because phase 1 of the ceasefire ended, that they were negotiating during that for a phase 2. And that has not happened. Obviously, there were violations by Hamas during the ceasefire with those mind games they played. So I don't know that we will see Hamas coming to the negotiating table. But if they don't either come to the table and just give the hostages back, I think that President Trump typically means what he says in these types of statements. But Cece, also, you were in D.C. yesterday meeting. You handle so much of our international work here at the ACLJ, and we talked yesterday with Jeff Balaban about the work he was doing in Israel yesterday, and you were in Washington working on some of the work we do for Israel. You will be going in just a week or so to Geneva at the UN, and then to Israel with more of that work. Can you tell our audience a little bit about it and what they are supporting when they support the ACLJ, the great work you do?
Sure. So yesterday we met in D.C. with the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs, and basically they are a global embassy for national security and applied diplomacy for Israel. And so just being able to work with these groups and strategize, again, you said I was going to the UN, and I am the Human Rights Council of the 58th session. I'll be going mid-March, and we'll be doing oral submissions on behalf of Israel, supporting Israel, defending their rights, really for existence, for being able to defend themselves and to exist peacefully, as we always do. And then after our trip to Geneva, then we will go on to Israel and be attending an anti-Semitism conference there. And so again, working with, like organizations and other Israeli officials to see how we can best defend Israel and support its right to live peacefully within its defensible borders.
I think this is a really important time. You need to support the work that we are doing there, because as you saw, Cece is headed to take care of business here at the ACLJ, make sure things are still going to get done, and we can still support these hostages. I mean, when you have Hamas, I saw one of the articles that just came out. It's like, well, Israel has stopped sending their humanitarian aid. This is the 3rd day that they've stopped. Well, yeah, no kidding. I mean, in what other world are you expected to send humanitarian aid into a country that is holding your people hostage? And the thing is, Israel has been doing it.
Yes.
They've been doing it because, as I've said, they value human life, and they even value the human life of the people that want them dead. That is the craziest part about this. But of course, that has to be the negative. Is Hamas says, they're not even sending us any more food anymore. It's like, no kidding. Why would they? Take care of your own people if you can. But of course, in this moment, that's going to be held against Israel. that they haven't done it. When we know what happened with, I mean, again, the tragedy of the Beavis family, and we saw all of that play out, how can you just expect, and that's been the problem, look, it's somewhat the problem with America, it is somewhat the problem with Israel, when you have people with compassion who are actually running a country, who actually can see humanitarian issues and try to take care of it, even when things are against you, even when those people want you dead. You tell me who the good guy is in that situation. Right. But now when they actually have a few cards, which is humanitarian aid, that's one of the cards they have, is sending food and things into Gaza, saying, no, we're not going to do that anymore until you free the remaining hostages. But then somehow, of course, the media will spin it that they're the bad guys.
That's exactly what we talked about yesterday. It was the whole thing of, and I'll be very quick, is that Israel goes above and beyond what any other nation would do, even including the United States. You're exactly right. They're providing food. They're providing provisions for literally their enemy, while their enemy is holding their own citizens captive. Even when they are defending themselves, they will literally they will send leaflets and tell the area where they're going to be attacking when they're defending themselves. No other country does that. No other country gives the enemy an update of, hey, we're going to be attacking you, so any civilians get out of there. No country does that. Israel goes above and beyond, and they're always painted as the enemy, and we are here at the ACLJ to stop that and change that narrative.
Absolutely, and you can be a part of that change as well. So I encourage you, we are just kicking off our Life and Liberty Drive. We've had a great first week, but we need more support. You've heard about our Choice Begins Here campaign. You now heard about what we're doing in Israel, of course, what we do on this broadcast each and every day. None of this is free. All of it is all free for you, but is not free for those of us that work on it every day. So I encourage you right now to make that donation, because all donations are doubled. You're going to hear about it a lot this month, and you know what? That's just what it is. Because right now, it's a really crucial time, because only a few times a year we're able to unlock those double donations. Unlock those matching donations. But right now is the time. ACLJ.org to do it, or scan the QR code on your screen. We're going to take phone calls coming up in the next segment. The phone lines are completely jammed right now. They will probably open up. So do that today again. Go to ACLJ.org. You can give us a call. 1-800-684-3110. If it's busy, keep calling. And we will get to as many calls as we can. Because we've heard from incredible lawyers like CC Howe. We've heard from Rick Grinnell, former Director of National Intelligence and a Special Envoy right now. Heard from Will Haynes, our Executive Producer. Of course, you've heard from me. But now we get to hear from the most important voice in the room, you. Because you help dictate what we do as an organization and where we take things. So right now, give us a call. We'll be right back with your calls and comments.
Hey everyone, this is Jordan Seculo. You've spoken and we've heard you loud and clear. That's why this month we're doing something big. We're proud to announce our brand new ACLJ Life and Liberty Drive. Our legal teams will be focusing on the issues that you, our ACLJ members, have told us matter the most to you: life and religious liberty. We're redoubling our efforts to beat back the radical left's attack on your constitutional religious freedoms and to defend the sanctity of human life. Life and liberty are the cornerstones of our great nation, but they're not guaranteed. When the values we hold dear are under attack, it's up to all of us to take a stand or risk losing them forever. This is not just a call to fund our legal battles. This is your moment to get in the fight. Just as before, every tax-deductible gift will be doubled, dollar for dollar, through the ACLJ Life and Liberty Drive, giving you twice the impact to defend your freedoms and help us fight to literally save lives. Join the ACLJ in the fight to keep America free.
Champions aren't born. Champions are ordinary people just like you who choose to do the extraordinary, to go the extra mile, to do what is right no matter the cost. It can be a difficult choice, but one any of us can make, including you. You can make a difference. You can be a champion. The legal battles we fight and the victories we've won are only possible because of the support of ACLJ members like you. But many of our cases take not only weeks, but months, sometimes years. By setting up a monthly donation, ACLJ Champions ensure we have the resources we need to take on these critical legal battles and win. By becoming a monthly donor, you become a champion of life, a champion of liberty, and a champion of freedom. Become an ACLJ champion today. Go to aclj.org/champion.
It's going to take a minute to get through everybody. Let's go ahead and kick it off with Michael, who's calling from the state of Florida, great state of Florida, what they call free state of Florida. You're on, watching from YouTube. Michael, go ahead.
Gentlemen, just wanted to call and say that it's unfortunate that we're dealing with crazy, and crazy continues to double down. And what's really bad about it is the fact that they're not voting in a different point of view of what's best for America. They're simply voting against Trump to try and either stop or slow his agenda. And so I think what we need to do is we need to continue to expose how these people are voting, actually even on both sides, and continue to amplify what's happening during the primaries and during the midterms. Because
yesterday, I mean, look, think about the response from MSNBC to maybe you could at least say a unifying moment that happened during that not State of the Union, when a little boy, a 13-year-old boy, wanted to be deputized because he has brain cancer, and they've been getting him deputized throughout the country, honorary deputized because he wants to be a police officer. And they, of course, they showed President Trump said, guess what, we're going to make you a member of the Secret Service. Beautiful moment, everyone cheered and applauded. Not everyone, well, about half the room. Some of them quietly clapped, didn't stand. A couple stood on the other side of the room. And then you had Nicole Wallace go on there and go, I hope he doesn't become one of those police officers that eventually will have to protect himself against President Trump, and, hopefully he doesn't commit suicide because of it. This is what you're dealing with here. And you're right, it is only because it's President Trump. That is what's happening. But Michael, I think you're right. They can keep doing this and keep doing this. The media can keep doing it, but the American people aren't taking it. Thanks for calling, Michael. Let's go to Whitney, who is an ACLJ champion. Of course, champions. Of course, she's been on hold the least. But because she's an ACLJ champion, she gets bumped to the front of the line. Whitney, you're on the air.
I appreciate it, Logan. Thank you. I totally support the censure. In fact, I'm glad to see it. Like Will and other callers have said, bad behavior without consequence leads to more bad behavior. But I also think that the Republicans, whether they are the minority or the majority, have a tradition of self-censure. When one of their members misbehaves, they do censure them. And when the Democrats are in the majority, they never discipline their members. Anti-Semitism and all kinds of terrible things and lack of decorum have gone unchecked. And so I think this is Mike Johnson's way of sort of showing his bipartisan even-handedness to say, hey, you misbehave, you're going to be censured, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. This just happened to be a Democrat.
Yeah, I agree with you, Whitney, and to the detriment of the majority, the Republicans expelled George Santos. They were the ones that led that effort and had him removed from the Congress. It wasn't the Democrats that were in control and moved that forward. It was Republicans. But you are correct. We've seen so much misbehavior, bad behavior by people of the left that if it continues to go unchecked, it will continue to grow. And to also bring that back up as well, I think it's still going to grow, even with the punishments, because they are trying to make it seem as though they are a martyr for the cause. This is the first time a member of Congress has been removed from a State of the Union or joint address, and it's going to continue to grow. One, because we know that members of Congress love to be on television, and when they can be the one that gets a little bit extra bookings on CNN, on MSNBC, and they get to tell their sad story about how they stood in the gap to defend democracy instead of respecting the traditions and the institutions, they're going to keep doing it, and that's a problem.
Absolutely. Let's continue on and take some more calls. Let's go to Doug, who's watching on YouTube in North Carolina. Doug, go ahead.
Hello, yes. You can hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. I was thinking about how Democrats and Republicans traditionally have voted. That you see in the country that usually you have more Republicans, and in the cities you have more Democrats. And you can picture this by a guy on a farm. He goes outside the door and he looks, and there's a board falling off the barn. And he's got to take care of it. He doesn't depend on the government to. But a person in the city, he walks out the door and there's a crack in the sidewalk. And who's going to fix that? Well, it's going to be the government probably. So traditionally, the cities, you have big government. That's Democrat.
In most states, there are blue spots and red states even. And a lot of times those are, of course, your major cities.
To point out is what traditionally used to be the difference between Democrats and Republicans. But the only thing that makes sense right now is that the Democrats have gone to be globalists, Marxist globalists. And when you look at it, what they do, that's the only thing that makes sense. And so we've got two parties. They're not Republican and Democrat anymore. We've got globalists, Marxists, and Americans.
I think that, to your point, I mean, that's why we have seen a shift in the people that have joined the Republican Party, people that were traditionally Democrats, like Bobby Kennedy or Tulsi Gabbard, that saw how ridiculous that party had become. And I agree, when you look at the opposition to cutting government, they are making each line item seem like it is life or death if we don't spend this money or don't have this control over it, even when it is the most nuanced, but still millions and millions of dollars, but project in a foreign country through USAID. They are trying to pinpoint that as though it is life and death and that America has to be there no matter what. And that does seem more like a globalist Marxist point of view than an American big government, small government argument.
Hey, I want to quickly get this last call. You've been on hold for a while. We only got about a minute and a half till this show ends, so you got about 20 or 30 seconds. I'm sorry. But Scott in Nevada, you're on the line.
Hi, I'd just like to say that I think that we should call out the Democrats for their antics, but I can see the ad in next year's primaries where they show all the antics that the Democrats are doing right now, and then they cut to President Trump, J.D. Vance, Kristi Noem with their speeches and agreements going on, and just ask the public, which do you prefer?
Yeah, and I think that that's an interesting point of view, too. Can we flip it on them in that sense and actually use these moments